Hi, my name is Selena, and I am excited that you are here. Welcome to the Unbreakable Spirit, where we tackle difficult topics of immense proportions and we uncover how your internal drive and power allows you to rise above those setbacks. We seek to uplift and offer hope and healing after experiencing adversity. Welcome to our conversation, where there's always a seat at our table for you. Juliet Creary is a powerhouse. She is a mother, grandmother, wife, registered nurse, a published author, and CEO. Today, Juliet sits down with us. In her own words, Juliet is on a mission to support women to look and feel fabulous while healing the world with their stories, creating successful businesses, and living empowered lives. Today, we'd like to speak with her about her book, The 7 Life Lessons Leading to Your Purpose. And this is a book about persevering on purpose. I like that. We love that at the Unbreakable Spirit. Juliet, welcome and thank you for sharing space with us today. And congratulations on your newly published books and all of your accomplishments.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Selena. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I know it's no small feat. It sounds like your life is super duper busy. So we should jump right into it. I wanna talk about your book in a moment, but I guess what is always curious to me and to our listeners is, what is it that led you to write this book?
That's a good question. I have, as most women, lived a full and continue to live a full life with all kinds of interesting experiences. And I have this organization, as we touched on earlier, called My Sisters Are Stories. And that's a platform where women share their stories of success despite adversities. And in listening to women share their stories and understanding and appreciating their experiences and their triumphs, then it made me realize, wait a minute, I haven't shared my story. And
Mm.
so it's always been within me to write a book. And as an immigrant, coming from the Caribbean as a child, and just the whole experience of that, and then growing up here, um, there's just a lot of experiences that I felt the need to share. I was compelled to share. And of course, I did have a life-threatening illness, and that just really, um, brought on the urgency for me to go ahead and share my story and write my story so that there's a record of my story.
Of your story. Can you share with us about your life-threatening illness, when it was and what it was? Are you comfortable doing that?
Yes, I am. I certainly am. In 2008, I would say I was a woman busy, busy, busy. Um, but I would say most of the time busy, um, not necessarily accomplishing. And
Mm.
yes, and because I, um, for whatever reason, felt the need to always keep myself busy, I always used to say I was living my life and the life of 10 other people because
Wow.
yes, I was the go-to person for my mother-in-law, for my mom, for those around me because they knew I worked from home most of the time during that time. And so I was just running around doing a lot. And during that time, I was getting a lot of headaches.
Mm.
And I just kind of put them on the side because I thought, well, I'm tired, I'm busy, and I used to drink a lot of coffee at that time, so every time I would get a headache, I would take my go-to cocktail, which was to have a cup of coffee with
Right.
um, Advil. I used to take that Advil gel, honestly, like the thing was candy, because I
Wow. And
didn't like.
you weren't even cluing in at that time that like these headaches were probably more than they should be. That was not
Not
on your.
not at all,
Wow.
not at all.
Okay. As I sit here and drink coffee, you got me a little scared. Please continue.
It's not the coffee, girl. It was the coffee and the Advil and my lifestyle. But
But in combination.
in combination. And so the headaches were increasing. I was getting the headaches daily,
Oof.
but I didn't even recognize that because again I was so busy. And if as soon as I got the headache, of course I would drink my coffee, take my Advil, and the headache would go away. And
Wow.
so that went on for a little bit. I would say there was a week of consistent headaches, and then the day of the, I guess, explosion, for lack of a better word, I I had a really bad headache that day. And I remember I was busy in the morning, had my coffee and Advil cocktail, and mid-afternoon, I came back home and I took an afternoon nap, and the headache was still there. And I remember it was in the evening, my husband got home, and I thought, I said to him, I said, my head is killing me. I don't know what's going on, but my head is just hurting so much. And he said, well, get some rest, because
Hmm.
I never rested. And
Right.
so at that time, long story short, headache progressed. I felt the need to actually at the time to go to the bathroom. And as a nurse, again, I still didn't even make the connection. I felt the need to go to the bathroom, went to the bathroom. As I sat on the toilet, I could feel a pain going down my neck. And I
Oh,
thought, oh my gosh. I immediately thought, all of a sudden the nurse kicked in. And I thought, I must have meningitis. And I thought, my neck is stiff. Why,
right.
where would I have gotten meningitis from? And I never cry. And my husband came in the room at the time, and I started to cry. I said, there's something going on inside my head, because literally it felt like my head was tearing open
Oh my
at that
gosh.
point. And so he's like, let's go to the hospital. And I'm a nurse and I don't like hospital. I'm like, no, I'm going to lay down. And so I lay down for a little bit. I called my cousin, who was also a nurse. She came over, immediately checked my blood pressure, which was insanely
Mm.
high at the time. And she starts to cry. She's like, oh my God, I think you're having a stroke. You've got to go to the hospital. And I said, no, I'm going to go to a clinic. Went to the clinic. Of course, there's limited things they could do. Checked me out. He's like, you seem, your reflexes are good. It doesn't look like you're having a stroke, but there's definitely something wrong, and you need to go to the hospital and get them to see inside your head. I said,
Right.
can I take some Advil and go to bed?
Mm.
And
Mm.
he is, well, it's up to you, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend you go to the hospital. Of course, I didn't take his recommendation. I went home, I took some Advil, and I went to bed. And I remember the pain was so intense throughout the night. As I turned my head, I had to hold my head to do it.
Oh my gosh, Juliet.
I know, I know. And
Juliet. This is
I,
such a cautionary tale about self care and
oh,
about sweeping things under the rug.
yes, because I went to bed that night and I thought,
Girl.
God must have been saying, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And clearly his hand was in everything. I woke up the morning and I was grateful I was still there. And that's when I called mom. I actually had my daughter drive me to my family doctor because my thought was I'd go to the family doctor. I don't know what I thought. She was going to do something and the headache would go away. And I called my mom as I was, I called the doctor's office. They're like, no, Juliet, June, which is my doctor. I've had her since I was 13.
Mhm.
She's not here. She's on vacation for 2 weeks. You've got to go to the hospital with this headache. So I
And
called my
this is
mom.
now the second, this is now the third time you're being told to go to the hospital. First, it was well, no, it's the fourth, because first your husband said it, then your cousin said it, then the clinic said it. And so this is the fourth time. Knock,
Yeah,
knock, knock, Juliet. Knock,
yes,
knock.
I know, I know, I know. So I finally listened, and I decided I was going to go to the hospital. I called my mom because I didn't tell her this, my mom, until that morning because I knew she'd make me do something.
Right.
And
Like
when
go to the hospital.
I called her and I told her what was going on, and she's like, okay. I was actually going to go to Georgetown. I live in Brampton. And she's like, no, don't go to Georgetown. Go to Credit Valley. I'll meet you there. And I did. I went to Credit Valley. My daughter dropped me off. I did have the foresight as to not drive that day. My
Mhm.
daughter dropped me off. She went to work with my vehicle, and mom met me there because my husband, he was at work. He went to work because I'm like, I'll be fine. It's a headache. It'll go away.
Of course, because that's what we do as women. I'll be
Oh,
fine. I'll be
you
fine.
shouldn't push it under. And I remember I had a wedding to do the next day. But anyways, I was in the hospital. Things move so incredibly quickly. I mean, I'm a woman of faith, and in looking back, I can just honestly see the hands of God moving because I
Hmm.
went to the hospital. Emerge was full. I remember there was a kid crying. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't deal with the crying today. It's too
Mm-hmm.
noisy. But it seemed
Mm-hmm.
like the minute I sat down, they called me into a room. The minute I got into the room, they called me in to go get a CAT scan. And it seemed like as soon as I got back from the CAT scan, I remember the nurse, it was a female doctor, and the nurse walked in the room and said, Mrs. Creary, good and bad news. And I said, okay, you know what? Give me the bad news first. And they said, well, it looks as though uh, you've had an aneurysm. You're experiencing a brain bleed right now. And I thought, oh. And then they said, of course, but the situation is, the good news that we know what it is. The bad news is that this is not a neurological hospital. And we've got to find you a hospital in province, or out of the country. When she said that, that's when I realized, oh my gosh, this is
severe. You realize the severity of it because they couldn't
is,
even handle it there.
yeah, this is crazy. And immediately I remembered the wedding. Who knew? I remember the wedding because I
Of
do
course you
make.
did.
I remembered the wedding for tomorrow, and I immediately called the girlfriend. I said, "Listen, I've got everything organized for this wedding tomorrow. Can you take over this wedding because I'm kind of in the hospital right now, and you know, this bride has to be taken care of." So my friend took over that wedding, and then I just started wedding. I went in a planning mode as to things that needed to take care of because I figured I was going to be there a little bit. And long story short, they eventually got me to Sunnybrook, which of course you know is a trauma hospital, and they started doing tests and could not really find the source of the bleed. I was in the ICU for a week, and I was in the step down unit for another week. In the midst of all of that, they never found the source of the bleeding. I remember when they took the initial angiogram, which is unbelievable, but because they tell you it's a pain-free test. No, it's not. When they inject that dye, my body went to places I can't even explain. The pain was so intense.
Oh, wow.
And but in doing the test, they never found the source. And you know, I was in ICU on that Friday, and the Saturday they did the angiogram, couldn't find anything. And then when I say they couldn't find anything, they couldn't find the source of the bleeding.
Right.
And the Sunday, I remember a pastor came to visit me, a friend of mine's son, who I didn't know him well, but I know my girlfriend well. Her son came in to the hospital, and he said, "Do you mind if I anoint your head and pray with you?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And so he prayed, but before he prayed, he read Psalms 46. And when he got to verse 10, "Be still and know that I'm God." All of a sudden, because the whole time I'm thinking, how am I here? I've never been sick a day in my life. What am I doing here? Because you know, you question things.
Of course.
And the minute he read that, I knew exactly. I knew exactly why I was there. Because I didn't know what it was to be still. I didn't know how to rest. I used to say to people, 4 hours sleep is all I need.
Juliet.
And apparently the body needs more than that.
That moment, can we just take a pause here? Can we really just take a moment here? Because I felt that in my soul. As you have been telling your story of how you got there, all I kept thinking about is how you are consistently putting others in front of you, and you're concerned about the wedding, and you're concerned about this. And meanwhile, you have just been told that you have a brain bleed and they don't know the origin of it. And before you focus on that, you are more concerned about making sure that everything else is organized. And God is so good because he brought this gentleman to your room, and how your spirit felt that moment of be still. That's very telling. And we don't listen. I think we don't listen enough, you know, but I'm really happy that the spirit is present with you, because that could have been a moment that you completely missed. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If you weren't open to it, you could have completely missed that moment. How gracious, how gracious. That's a powerful, sorry, I'm sounding kind of speechless, but I just feel like the moment needs reverence. And that I feel like we always need to hear and be still, What is it that we are not hearing? How
Yes.
can we be more present to hear what it is that the divine is trying to tell us, because I have known people who have had aneurysms. They did not make it. And there is a
Absolutely.
reason that you're here. So you're here. This is your testimony, right? Your testimony is your story, is the reason that you're here. How did you move through this very, very critical time in your life?
Oh, well, of course, again, I'm a woman of faith, so um, heavily relied on God,
Mm-hmm.
and as if, especially if you grow up in a faith, you
Sure.
grow up in the faith, you do sort of just assume it's always there. You just sort of take things for granted, and you don't really appreciate um, what you have, and so there were definitely some moments like that particular moment,
Mm-hmm.
to be still and just acknowledging that um, I had to like stop, slow down. And I'm going to tell you, I slept so much when I was in the hospital. I never knew it was physically possible. I was clearly exhausted and didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I slept and slept, but and I remember being very intentional when I was in the hospital. I had my husband brought in a DVD player so I could watch movies, and I only watched a particular movie. It had to be comedy, or it had to be spiritual, it had to
Yes.
be uplifting. I
Yes.
don't, I to this day I don't watch the news. I
Right.
just watch the news.
So
Um,
nourishing your soul and your spirit with, I remember my cousin said to me once, he's no longer on this earth plane, and he said to me once, we would talk about stress and feeling when you were feeling down and blue, and he said, just put a comedy on. And it's so funny because I
oh,
remember he was actually in Sunnybrook, and I remember the doctor said that they wanted to have a family meeting, and I had always heard those family meetings are never good. And that day I was freaking out. And what did I do? I put on a comedy just to calm myself. That was really good. So now you're getting into the self-care, right? Now
yes,
you're getting
yes,
into, now I'm understanding what I need to do for myself, and you're ensuring that your state of mind is being protected.
100%. It's funny because I always thought myself prior to this to be all about self-care. I did. I thought I was all about me first, me this, me that. But
Mm-mm.
no. And so, yeah, I remember being there. And I remember while I was there, a friend visited. And it's funny the things that you remember. And this particular person was focusing on some things in her life and some desires in her life that she, didn't have or couldn't accomplish. And as she was talking, I was kind of sitting there in my brain going, I can't believe I'm in the hospital with a brain bleed and you're bringing your issues to me. How is this okay?
Right, right, right.
So I turned off what she was saying, and in my mind I started going, yeah, 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 yeah. Because honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but but had this been a week ago, you probably would not have reacted. A week prior,
exactly.
you would not, you would have been there for it. You would have been
Yes,
there for it. You've been trying to counsel her through it. And then you
yes.
realize, hey, so that was all part of it. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. I am, you know, I hope that this doesn't come across mean, but I am so happy that you recognize how much of your soul that you were giving, and
Exactly.
protecting that as well, right?
And I used to always consider myself a giver, and
Mm-hmm.
I still am, but
Hmm.
recognize that one of the persons that I need to give to is Juliet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The
One
most
of the
important
persons,
person you need to give to is Juliet.
because if you don't have, you have nothing to give.
That's what they talk about when they talk about that oxygen mask on the plane. Put it on yourself
Exactly.
first,
And
because
it's so funny. I'm good at telling other people that stuff, but
living it is another story.
living it for yourself
Is another
is
living
entirely
it for
another story.
yourself. Living it for yourself.
So,
Um, I am happy that you're here with us, and I want to now, because that, I mean, I know that that's that I myself am a survivor of a critical illness, and there's definitely come to Jesus moments, and I'm so happy that you are here, and you are here but for the grace of God, right?
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely. And it changes the lens.
perspective,
The
yes,
lens,
girl.
it changes the lens
Yes,
in how
yes,
you see the world. It changes
yes,
the lens in how you experience things. It changes the lens as to how you treat people, and it
yes.
also changes the lens as to how you allow people to treat you.
Treat you.
Yeah,
Preach, Sister Juliet, preach.
yes, yes.
That's
Because
it
there are
right there.
things
That's it.
I would have overlooked before, and I would go home and I would be lost in my thoughts, trying to figure out, I should have done this, I should have said that.
Mhm.
Now, no, no,
That's
not
all gone. That's
not
bye-bye,
trying to have
gone
that burden.
bye-bye. That's gone bye-bye.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to jump into your book. I want to talk a little bit about your book.
Yes. Yes.
So 7 life lessons leading to your purpose. So let's talk about the first chapter, the power of words and their lasting impact. And maybe you can just tease our audience with a little intro as to why you even wrote that chapter and what it is that you believe to be that lasting impact.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Yes, I'm very excited and very, just great sense of gratitude about this book, 7 Life Lessons Leading to Your Purpose, Perseverance on Purpose. And I wrote this book because obviously, through my experience, I felt that I had a story to tell.
Mhm.
And that's only one of my stories. I'm sure there are more stories to birth. Um, but this is about a journey of a little girl from the Caribbean migrating to this country and just her life experiences from 10 years old up until the cerebral hemorrhage, really, is what it's about. And for each chapter, there are 7 chapters, and I chose 7 because 7 is such a profound um, number. It's such a spiritual number, and
Yes.
so 7 resonated with me. Each chapter is a different lesson, and at the end of each chapter, at the end of each lesson, the reader is asked questions. They're encouraged to engage. There are questions asked for self-reflection
Oh,
of
that's great.
spiritual.
So it's interactive.
Yes,
Fantastic.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So the first chapter is like, as you mentioned, the power of words and their lasting impact. And honestly, what this chapter is about is my introduction to racism as a child.
Okay.
Because you have to understand, I came from the country, I came from a rural area, farmland, very, very, very small, tight knit community where everyone looked like me and everyone sounded like me.
Okay. Got
So
it.
yeah, so I was only accustomed to seeing. I mean, when I say that it was country, I didn't have a television in the home. So it
Okay.
wasn't,
So you just really had
yes,
no concept of any, as you rightfully said, and thank you for framing that for us, because you just hadn't even seen a person that was not a dark skinned person or was not
yes,
of color. So
yes,
gotcha.
yes.
So now you come to Canada and there's a whole new world happening here.
There's
And tell
everything
us
there.
about when you said your introduction to racism. Tell us, was there a specific incident?
Yeah, well, I arrived in Canada on the Saturday
Mhm.
and I was in school on Monday morning.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I remember I got ready for school and my mom, as I was leaving, mom said, "Oh, by the way, if you hear the word nigger, it is not a compliment. It's a word that they use when they don't like us. It's a word that they use um, just because they don't like us, and it's an insult to us when they use this word." And so I thought, okay, I never heard that word prior to that conversation.
Right.
And in my mind I'm thinking, well, who are they, and what is she talking about?
Right.
Anyhow, of course, I get to school and the day is going well. Lots of new people, lots of new friends, and of course, my accent is so strong. Everything is so different, right?
Right.
And anyhow, I'm in the classroom, and this lovely little Italian boy came up to me and said, "Oh, look at the little nigger." And I said,
Woo!
and
Fire.
immediately I thought, okay,
You thought what
mom
your
said,
mother said.
mom said, this is an insult. So this little boy just insulted me.
Right.
And that means he doesn't like me.
Right.
And so I said, okay. However, what mom didn't know about me is I was a little bit of a fighter from Jamaica. I really
Right.
was.
So let me just preface this by saying mom had come ahead to Canada and left
Yes,
you in Jamaica, as is very, very, very often in our culture, right?
yes,
So mom would not have been aware that you weren't about that life. You weren't about just call me whatever and move on. Got it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
She would not have known that about me
Right.
because even though it's so good the relationship. Even though she was here and I was there, she would write me letters. I remember getting letters in big print so I could read them and so on.
Oh,
So the
bless.
relationship was there,
Right.
but that day to day intimacy of knowing who
Sure.
my character and all of that, she didn't know.
Sure.
So when that little boy said that, of course, my instinct was, no, you're not. You are not going to talk to me like that. We're not
Right.
having this. So automatically, I just shoved him down. And unfortunately, I don't know if you remember, back in those days, we had those bookcases in the classroom. They were like a tall, um, a cellular, like a circle,
Circle.
metal
Right.
bookcases, and the books sat in each pocket around the case. And so, in me pushing him, he the whole bookcase, he knocked against the bookcase, and he went down. The bookcase went down, and it was a bit of a mess. And
Right.
unfortunately, the little boy had braces in his teeth, and I didn't know anything about braces. I'd never seen them before, and the impact, of course, caused bleeding, and it was just greater than it was. It was
Right.
not good.
Right. From one shove, it ended up being a whole bunch of other little side
Exactly.
effects kind of thing. Got it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, I was immediately sent to the office, and I don't recall him being sent to the office, but I know
Hmm.
I was sent to the office, and the principal announced to me that I was going to be getting a strap. And I thought, well, I know in Jamaica you got the strap if you're bad in school, but
Right.
anyhow, usually though, if there's a situation in school, everybody was getting a strap. It wasn't one person being pointed out.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
So this is a multi-layered racist moment because number one, the little boy insulted you. Number
yeah,
two, because of all these other things that happened, the bottom line for them was you were the one that is in trouble. He didn't go to the office. You went to the office
exactly.
and you ended up getting the strap. So it was multi-layered,
Okay, well,
which
hold
is
on to that. I did not get the strap. It was threatened that I was going to get the strap.
got it. Got it.
But
Okay.
he needed to contact my mom. Remember, it's the first day of school.
Sure.
He needed to contact my mom to, speak to her about the situation and let her know, what was going to happen. And of course, I waited and waited what seemed like an eternity. And then mom arrived. And then mom went in the office and spoke to him. They talked behind closed door for a little bit. And then she came out of the office and explained to me that, I shouldn't have pushed this little boy down and that I need to go back to the classroom. I need to apologize to the boy and to the teacher.
Hmm.
And and that there was going to be no strap. So, anyways, I didn't know all of what took place in the office. So when I got home, and I had to go and do my apologies, and which I don't recall the little boy apologizing to me, but
Right.
I do
Right.
recall that you know we had to pick up all the books, and he had to support that activity and pick up the books and put them back inside the case. But when I
Right.
got home and talked to mom as to what happened, and I thought I was going to get the strap, and I didn't get the strap, she explained that, she talked to the principal, and she informed the principal that the only person allowed to do any kind of physical discipline to her child was her.
Good.
And
Good.
so that was not going to happen.
Good.
And as far as any kind of physical um, disciplinary actions that night. No, we had a conversation. She said, "Yes, this is how this world is." Because I remember as I was sitting there, and the principal said he was going to be giving me a strap. I thought to myself immediately, he must be part of the they group.
Right, the they group. There you
He must be
go.
part of the they group, and they don't
Right.
like me. And mom, later on explained that as black people, this is just how it is here,
Just
and
how it is.
and um but you have to always stand up for yourself, and that feeling of being judged or being disliked or um known as discrimination. Of course, as a
Hmm.
child, I didn't understand the word discrimination, but
Hmm.
it brought on a lot of feelings of guilt and shame,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, of
Um,
course it would. Of
but
course
my
it has.
mom,
And you know what? So just for context, this was in the 1970s, right?
yes, it was. I was
Yeah.
born in '64 and I came here in '74. So when I
Right.
was
So this was in 1974. Yeah. You know what? Um, I think writing this, I am sure that this was very cathartic for you to even
yeah.
put pen to paper about this. Tell me, can you and I think, you've got me thinking back to the times in my life where this had happened when I was in school. I had a couple of incidents like that. um and what it is was and remains interesting to this day is how the adults in the room, I like to call them the adults in the room, are not looking at it and saying, wait a second, wait one cotton picking minute, what just happened here?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So they're just
Yeah.
looking at, and I think that still is unfortunately is true today. Can you tell our listeners, can you read the titles of the six other chapters in the book, just so that we have a sense of that? And then I want to talk a little bit about your other love, My Sisters Are Stories. So what are the other six chapters in the book?
So chapter 2 is follow your heart no matter what.
Hmm.
Chapter 3, when faced with an obstacle, go over it, through it, or under it. Chapter 4, unexpected thunder.
Hmm.
Know your body, and recognize changes. Chapter 5, recognize God's grace and depend on Him. In chapter 6, learn to be still. And the final chapter, gratitude and purpose.
I love those names. I
Yeah.
absolutely love those names. And we're going to talk right at the end about how we can get that book. Let's talk about My Sisters Are Stories. Tell us a little bit about um, that organization, and who you think, who are the beneficiaries of that organization.
Okay, that organization, I remember when that organization was birthed and 2014. And, as a leader in nursing, my background is nursing. I don't know if I even mentioned that. And the majority of my nursing experience has been in the role of director of nursing in a nursing home and nursing homes, really. And as you know, in the nursing field, the majority of staff are females. So I've always been in a position of leadership as it pertains to female that caused me to encourage, educate, and um, all that kind of thing, inspire
Mm-hmm.
women. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, I've always been, as I've always got a side gig, and my side gig for many years was in the cosmetic industry. And
Right.
so, within the cosmetic industry, I, of course, was exposed to a lot of different women, different culture, different educational background, different ethnicity, and
Because we
I,
all want to look cute,
we all
no
want to look
matter
cute,
what.
girl, no matter what. But what I found was a common ground is that these women all are strong women. These women have overcome some things. I mean, when you talk to some women and hear about their lives, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You realize that we are more alike than we are unalike.
That is so true. And we are unbreakable.
We are, as women, oh, I can't
Yes.
tell you how
Yes.
unbreakable we are. And
Yes.
so, I used to be on the board of director of an organization that supports women going through cancer and survivors of cancer, particularly women of color.
Yes.
And I realized all these women are how powerful it was to hear their stories as they talked
Mhm.
about their experiences. And so, my sisters, our stories came to be because as I met other women who've gone through other situations, whether it be something like the birth of a child after trying for 10 years,
Mm.
or the inability to have a child and what they've done to live with or overcome that, or the loss of a child,
Mm.
or any number of things that women go through on a daily, loss of a relationship, divorce, what have you, children situation, different illnesses, outside of cancer, because there's so many,
Sure.
right, human beings. And I thought, where do these women share their stories? What platform do they have?
Do they
And
have?
so my Sisters Our Stories was born out of that, to provide women with a platform to share their own stories of success despite adversities, because we are
Beautiful.
strong. Yeah.
It's so aligned with the Unbreakable Spirit.
Yes.
It
Yes.
really is very, very aligned. That is beautiful. And, I love, here it is, like your helping heart, right? That just continues to share and to help others share as well. That's a beautiful thing. So tell me where people can order your book. Because your book is, and my copy better be on the way. I'm dealing with that. I am going to deal with that situation today, because I want to support, but I also feel that it is invaluable, because I think that, like my Sisters Our Stories, it is so important to share your story, because you want to also help others know you are not alone. You will get through this, because so many things have happened in our lives, I'm sure, that we didn't know, that we really felt in that moment, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? So it's really
Exactly.
fantastic that you have that. Tell me how people can order your book, Juliet.
Okay, so I'm in the process of getting it on Amazon. It is not
Woo!
there
Woo,
yet,
woo.
but it will be on Amazon. Yes, yes, get excited. However, right now I do have, I was going to say 100 copies in my hot little hands, but because I self-published, so I do have some physical copies.
And
However,
so can they email?
yes, they can do an e-transfer, and I can drop it in the mail for them.
Wonderful. And you can visit Juliet's website on julietcreary.com, JulietCreary.com, and place your order there. Yay, Juliet. Thank you. This was a very short look into Juliet's life and her journey, but Juliet, there's a whole lot more to share. And thankfully you did write the book to share. So thank you for sharing space with us, Juliet.
And Selena, thank you for the opportunity to share with you and with your listeners about my particular story. And my hope is that in hearing my story, and even reading the book, and to your other powerful women that I know you showcase on this platform, is that other women will find their strength and
Yes.
their purpose
Yes.
and their why to
Yes.
move forward and take care of what they are called to do in their lives.
Love it. Yeah, because we're all here. We are all here for a purpose. Thank you so much, Juliet. Thank you for listening to the Unbreakable Spirit for the Soul podcast. Please click like and click share. We'd love to hear your feedbacks and comments. Never miss an episode. Please sign up on our website, theunbreakablespiritpc.com. And you can also find us on IG. Our handle is at the.unbreakablespirit, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Unbreakable Spirit for Podcast for the Soul. Thank you again for listening. Have yourself an exceptional day. And ciao for now. Selena signing off.